evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of the book club. Now, today we have a Japanese author being presented by Sheena Shahani. And my guess is that very few of us would have read him. So this is a new author to discover, to explore, and to enjoy. So Sheena, my thanks go out to you for bringing this new author to us. Now, this is Toshikazu Kawaguchi, okay? And I've just read a little bit of the books that Sheena is going to be talking about. I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far. So I think it's going to be a very enjoyable read. And Sheena has given us the PDF, so she's made it so easy for us. So Sheena, thanks to you. And I'm going to hand over to you immediately because I think this is an author that we need to hear about and probably we know very little about. So tell us about him. The mic is all yours.
Thank you. I have changed the format of my presentation a bit. I'm not going to talk about the author in the beginning. I will talk about the author at the end. I will immediately, dive into the books. So, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, originally written in Japanese and then translated into English, was a debut novel published in 2015. When I first heard the title, I asked myself, what is to happen or does happen or should not happen before the coffee does get cold? What are the characters required or supposed to do or forbidden to do? So last year, I got the book and began to read. And to sum it up in a phrase, it is charming and delightful. The book was a huge hit in Japan and after translation in English has proven to be extremely popular internationally and so enchanted its readers that the author followed it up with a sequel, Tales from the Cafe. So these are the two books, the first one and the second one. This book is a fantasy novel and a page turner, and immediately it transported me to a small, quiet side street in central Tokyo. I have never been to Japan, by the way, but I did get transported. It can be overwhelming and distracting to keep up with names in a foreign language. Therefore, I will be generic and will focus mainly on the 4 most important characters to both the books. The first and most important character in both books is a cafe, which, despite its location, has a reputation as a magical place where customers can travel into the past or into the future. This time-traveling cafe is a few minutes walk from the Jimbocho metro station in central Tokyo and is located in a narrow back street in an area of mostly commercial buildings. There is an obscure sign advertising a basement cafe, and you could walk right past it and easily miss the sign, and consequently, this cafe. So Farooq Bhai, please take note of this. The next time you visit Tokyo, do go to this cafe and tell us about your first-hand experience.
I will do that.
Not to miss.
Yes, yes.
The cafe is named after a song, an Italian song, Funiculi Funicula. Legend has it that this quaint coffee shop gives its patrons a once-in-a-lifetime chance to visit the past or the future. For a few minutes, people can return to the past, come back from the past, go into the future, or come back from the future. Since the cafe is a major player in the two books, let me describe to you a little about its history, interior decor, and layout. This cafe opened its doors in 1874, some 140 years before the story opens, which is 2014. The song Funiculi Funicula was composed in 1880. So the cafe was probably called something else when it first opened. In appearance, the cafe is quite unimpressive. To enter this cafe, one has to descend stairs from the ground level, cross a landing, and go in through a large carved door about 2 meters high, made of solid wood. When you push open the door, a connecting cowbell goes off, clang dong, but the visitor does not immediately appear at the entrance, as a small patch of flooring has to be crossed first. So those inside the cafe hear the bell first, and then there is a lag of a few seconds before the newcomer appears. Someone from inside will probably shout out, "Hello, welcome." When you go in, you notice that a sepia hue stains the cafe interior. It looks quite old. There is a definite aura about this place. And there is no air conditioning, only one slowly spinning, rotating ceiling fan. Yet, it manages to stay cool even in the summer. Only the staff know why. Because it is underground, there is no natural light entering. The illumination is subdued, provided by just 6 shaded lamps hanging from the ceiling and a single wall lamp near the entrance. And irrespective of the season, the inside always looks the same. The chairs have elegantly curved cabriole legs, and the seats and backs are upholstered with a pale moss green fabric. The cafe is quite small. It has both counter and table seating, but with just 3 seats at the counter and 3 two-seater tables, it can only serve 9 customers at a time, no more. However, you can sit there as long as you want. No one will rush you to leave, and it is never overcrowded or full. Being an underground cafe, it has no windows and no natural lighting. Because the lighting is dim, without a clock, there would be no way to tell night and day apart. You sort of lose your sense of time. But there are 3 large, humongous antique clocks in this cafe. The arms of each, however, show different times. Is this intentional to cause confusion, or are they just broken? Again, only the staff know this. Customers on their first visit never understand why the clocks are like this. Their only option is to check their watches or their cell phones. Actually, only the clock on the middle wall is accurate. The other 2 are either slow or fast. Repeat visitors get used to this. Perhaps the 3 clocks signifies the past, the present, and the future in keeping with the time-traveling theme. Or perhaps 2 are just malfunctioning. The staffers' attempts at getting them repaired are futile. They are just so old that maybe the parts are not available anymore. The clocks, the chairs, the lamps are all antiques. Despite all this, the cafe is always spotlessly spick and span. Obviously, the staff spend a lot of time in dusting, cleaning, sweeping, and mopping the place. Several years have passed since the cafe had had its moment of fame in the media, courtesy of an urban legend that claimed it could transport people back to the past. You would think then that the cafe would have queues of people making a beeline to it, wanting to go back into the past, right? Not quite so. Not everyone is so brave. And why is that? There are several rules to be followed, and they are tough, they are daunting, they're scary, and they are risky. The first rule for time traveling in this cafe is the only people the person can meet while in the past are those who have also visited the cafe at some point or the other. So if a customer wishes to go to the past to meet someone who had never been to this cafe, they simply cannot. The past could be as recent as a week before, or it could be 30 years before, but the meeting always takes place in the cafe. It does not take place outside, say in a park or on Mount Fuji or anything like that. Another rule is there is nothing a person can do while in the past that will change the present. You cannot change the present. When you go back, no matter how hard you try, the outcome won't change. So you can't go back to the past and prevent somebody's death. That is simply not going to happen. The third rule, there is only one seat that allows the person to time travel. This seat is located at the furthest table away from the entrance. And this chair is almost always occupied by a woman in a white dress, quietly reading a book in full concentration, oblivious to her surroundings. You cannot ask her to move. So the opportunity arrives only when this person budges from her seat And that event only happens once a day at no fixed time. So the customer wanting to time travel could be in for a long wait. And if there is someone before you in the queue, then today is just not your day. It's not going to happen today. Another rule: when the person is back in the past or forward in the future, they must stay in that seat and never move from it. If he or she gets up from that chair in their excitement, the experience ends kaput and they are jolted back into the present. The fifth and the most important rule, and this is where the book gets its title, there's a time limit on how long one can stay in the past. That is, before the coffee gets cold. The coffee is a very important element to the time traveling experience. And then there are some other minor rules, which I won't go into just now. Despite all these strange rules, a few people do want to take their chance. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity after all. These two books tell the stories of 8 miracles that happened in this coffee shop to people who made the time traveling journey. The two books ask 2 questions. What would you change if you could travel back in time? And more importantly, who would you want to meet and why? Maybe for one last time. I will give details of one story from book 1 and one story from book 2. The novels are split into 4 distinct sections, each one focused upon one customer. Though several characters appear in each section, each of the quarters is clearly devoted to a particular person or a couple. Now, let's meet 3 of the key players who recur in both books 1 and 2. As mentioned before in Rule 3, in order to return to the past, you have to sit in one seat and one seat alone. And this is the seat that is occupied by the lady in the white dress. She has glossy dark hair and a pale complexion. Who is she? The lady in the white dress is the resident ghost of the cafe. You can touch her to assure yourself that she exists. She's a ghost and you can't mess with her. If anyone tries to push her or remove her and sit on that seat by force, she gets furious and she will curse you. What ensues then is temporary paralysis to the person who has been cursed. How did she become a ghost? This lady time traveled to meet her dead husband. While there in the past, having the reunion with her late husband, she got emotional and forgot about the time and about finishing the coffee before it got cold. And then she died and became a ghost. So this is what happened to her. She did not drink it up in time and poof, she turned into a ghost. Now patrons visiting dead people in the past have a thermometer alarm in the form of a silver stirrer, also an antique, placed on the saucer. They are supposed to use it as a spoon to stir the coffee, and it beeps when the temperature of the coffee falls. This is a ghost who drinks coffee and reads books and goes to the toilet. She's an avid reader. Maybe Moini and Satish, you should invite her to join our book club. Every day there is just one time when she goes to the toilet. Why does a ghost need to go to the toilet, you ask? This one needs to, because if she does not vacate the seat once a day, you cannot sit on her chair. And if you cannot sit on that chair, then you cannot time travel. When she has vacated the seat, the prospective time traveler can sit there. As the ghost does not differentiate between day and night, she could go to the toilet either in the AM or in the PM. The person just has to wait patiently. The cafe allows you to sit after closing hours for a small after hours fee. The good thing is the ghost never returns and interrupts while the time traveling experience is happening. To emphasize the last and the most important rule, rule number 5. In order to return to the past, you sit on that special seat and you are served a special cup of steaming coffee. When you return to the past, you must drink the entire cup before the coffee gets cold. Cold is probably defined as skin temperature. So the person's time in the past will begin from the time the coffee is poured and they must return before the coffee goes cold. This is very challenging, as one must not forget to sip and drink up the coffee, even when meeting the other person in the past. The coffee for time traveling is different from the other coffee served by the cafe. It cannot be prepared and poured by just anybody. It must be prepared and poured by one person only. And this person is Kazu Tokita, this young and pretty waitress and barista. At the start of book 1, Kazu is 23 years old. She's a fine arts student at a local university and a cousin of the owner. She helps out at the Funiculi Funicula cafe in her spare time. When you come to book 2, you are told that the coffee ceremony for time traveling can only be performed by a maiden from the Tokita family who owns a cafe. Currently, this role is performed by Kazu. Kazu is a very intuitive person and seems to be a mind reader. She knows exactly which customer wishes to time travel. Kazu will ask the customer to which point of time in the past or in the future he or she wishes to return to. And even if the customer is acquainted with the rules, she will explain and count them off one by one. Because time traveling is risky, it is very important that the person before her understands the rules and she makes sure that they do so, and she has to satisfy herself about that. Kazu will always emphasize rule number 5. Your stay in the past begins when the coffee is poured and must end before the coffee gets cold. One customer asked Kazu once, what happens if I don't drink all the coffee before it gets cold? Then the lady in the white dress will receive moksha and poof, it will be your turn to be the spook sitting in this seat, she replied. After Kazu has explained all the rules, she will go to the kitchen and prepare this magical coffee and return with the coffee service. This consists of a pure white porcelain cup and an antique silver coffee pot borne aloft on an antique silver tray. We do not know whether Kazu utters a mantra when she prepares this coffee or what ingredients she uses, but this coffee is certainly different. It seems to possess magical properties and powers. I am now going to pour the coffee, she says. Remember to drink it all up before it turns cold. She will then slowly lower the spout towards the cup. She gives off an air of nonchalance, but her fluid and graceful movements make the customer feel like they are observing an ancient and solemn ceremony. She seems to be haloed by dim, pale blue flames. The atmosphere in the cafe turns unworldly and electrified. When the spout is just a few centimeters away from the cup, a thread-like column of black coffee appears. This is soundless, and it doesn't appear to be moving. Only the surface of the liquid in the cup rises. There is a startling contrast between the black coffee and the white cup. The coffee that fills the cup resembles a pitch black shadow, and a plume of steam rises from it. When the cup is full, she pronounces, and your time starts now. Once the shimmering steam rising from the coffee cup meets the air, everything around the table also begins to curl up and become indistinguishable from the swirling vapor. The customer begins to feel fear and closes his or her eyes. The sensation that your surrounding is quivering, quavering, rippling, and becoming distorted, like the rising steam, becomes even more powerful. Then it settles down, and soon the person lands into the past or arrives into the future. The same sensation is repeated when the customer drinks up the coffee and returns to the present. It is not clear what enables the customer to time travel. There is no time machine or device like in H.G. Wells's novel. It could be a combination of the cafe, the seat, the barista's magical powers, and the coffee. But whatever it is, it works. The cafe is owned by Kazu's cousin, Nagare Tokita. He is famous for brewing the best mocha coffee in town. The mocha beans are imported from Ethiopia. It's not just the ingredients, but also the process. He makes the coffee manually from scratch, while his wife and Kazu would use the automatic option. The cafe's custom comprises of its regulars, many of whom come all the way for Nagare's coffee. Like the homicide detective who always comes for Nagare's mocha. If Nagare is not in, he will go away. Like the lady who came in regularly to have Nagare's mocha before she fell terminally ill and was hospitalized. For 6 months, her daughter got a takeaway of Nagare's coffee for her every day to the hospital. The day the lady died, it was after wetting her mouth with Nagare's coffee. She had then taken her last breath as if falling asleep, and then she went straight to heaven. Nagare is also a man of few words and has a heart as big as his size. He is supposedly almost 2 meters tall, about 6.5 feet. He's kind, generous, considerate, makes the best coffee in Tokyo, and is an excellent chef and baker. He personally goes shopping for his ingredients and does not spare time nor expense. And he is a good listener, like bartenders should be. When he is behind the counter and not making coffee, he is polishing glasses and listening to his customers. So there are those who come for Nagare's coffee. There are others who come out of curiosity, and several come to travel back into the past. Then there are those like you and me who go to a cafe for the food, the beverages, and to meet with friends. Food is also made from the best ingredients. Nagare does not cut corners. All the food is prepared seemingly by Nagare, his wife, and Kazu. There is no other staffer. The cafe serves some scrumptious meals, both Japanese and global. One of the characters had the last meal of her life there. She was killed in a car crash soon after she left the cafe. She had driven over from her hometown to meet her sister, who lived in Tokyo. She spent 3 hours in the cafe and consumed all of this: coffee and more coffee as refills are free, toast, curry rice, mixed parfait, ice cream soda, pizza toast, curry pulao, banana float, cutlet curry, gorgonzola gnocchi, chicken and perilla cream pasta, a mixed sandwich, grilled onigiri, another curry rice, iced coffee. She paid a bill of yen 230 before leaving on the last journey of her life. She tendered 11,000 yen and she was given back the change, which brings me to yet another antique in this cafe. The payment mode is in cash only. You cannot pay with credit, debit cards, or by online digital methods. So Farooq Bhai, remember, next time you go to Tokyo and visit the cafe, you must have plenty of yen on you. Yes. The cafe's cash register has to be a contender for the oldest one still in use. Its keys are those like an old Remington typewriter. It dates back to the 1920s. This is a very solidly built cash register designed to prevent theft. Its frame alone weighs 40 kilos and it makes a noisy clank or clunk every time a key is punched. This also adds to the old world antiquated charm. In Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Book 1, we meet 4 time travelers. Now I'm coming to them at last, all women, each of whom is hoping to make use of the cafe's unique offer in order to confront the man who left her, receive a letter from the husband whose memory has been taken by early onset Alzheimer's, to see her dead sister one last time, and to meet the daughter she never got the chance to know. The second chapter of Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Book 1, entitled Husband and Wife, follows a Japanese man in his 40s who has recently been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and his wife, who is a nurse. The man and the woman are a childless couple who have been married about 15 years. In the author's favor, I must say that he manages to make this part touching, poignant, emotional, but not depressing. He doesn't digress by writing on and on about Alzheimer's or dementia. He leaves that to Lancet. He just describes what the couple is going through and the changes in their life because of the man's illness. The man was a landscape architect before his illness set in. He used to travel a lot around Japan for his work, but after he started to lose his memory, he began coming to the cafe because he wanted to time travel. He too has heard the urban legend. Now he is a cafe regular who always occupies the seat nearest to the entrance. This man is always found reading a travel magazine and making notes. He also carries a zippered portfolio. His wife, the nurse, drops in after work to take him home, but nowadays he doesn't always recognize her. One day he asks her, "Excuse me, but who are you?" She is dismayed, but only momentarily. She was expecting this day to come after all. The man had once told Kazu that he wants to go back to the past to give a letter to his wife. Kazu happens to mention this to the wife. Upset by the deterioration in her husband's condition, the wife asks to use the time-traveling chair to return to a point in the past where her husband was well. She'd like to spend a few minutes with the man she had married before his personality began to change. When she does go back, she meets her husband at a point where he already knows his diagnosis, though he's carefully hiding his symptoms from her. He then gives his wife the letter in which he tells her about the starting of his illness. He writes that he does not want to become a burden to her. He wants her to promise that she will leave him to professional carers when his illness advances to the point that he no longer recognizes her, or when he can no longer be her husband. So the present doesn't change. The world is as you left it. Every time traveler knows this. Nothing about her husband has changed, but the wife's attitude changes. She no longer feels bad that he does not know who she is. She comes to the cafe and talks to him as a friend, enjoying her conversations with him. As she reasons, he may have forgotten who I am, but I know who he is. Even if my identity is totally erased from his memory, I will be a part of his life as a nurse. I can still be there for him. And that is the decision she makes, to stay with him, no matter what it takes. Before I talk about book 2, I will give an outline on the important years in which things happen in the cafe and to its customers. So the Café Funiculi Funicula, as mentioned earlier, opened in 1874. Book 1, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, is set 140 years later. So that's about 2014. In chapter 3 of book 1, a 15-year-old girl travels from the future 2029 to 2014 to meet the mother she never met. And in chapter 4 of the same book, book 1, a mother travels from 2014 to 2029 to meet the daughter she never knew. Book 2, Tales from the Cafe, is set 6 years later in 2020. Of course, the author had no way of knowing then that 2020 would be a corona year and a lockdown year. Maybe if he had sat on that chair and time traveled into the future before penning book 2, he would have made sure that all his characters were masked up. The story I will talk about now is this one. I will first tell you about the 4 stories in book 2. There's this man who goes back 22 years to meet his dead friend, the son who was unable to attend his mother's funeral, the man who went to see the woman he could not marry, and I can't see the screen, but you can read the last one. So the novelist Dostoevsky once wrote, "The most difficult thing in life is to live and not lie. People lie for different reasons. Some lies are told in order to present yourself in a more interesting or more favorable light. Others are told to deceive people. Lies can hurt, but they can also save your skin, regardless of why they are told. However, lies most often lead to regret. And in the case of a major lie, it will haunt you, and one day it will come back to bite you." In book 2, a man time travels 22 years into the past to meet his dead best friend. For 22 years, this man has raised his best friend's orphan daughter, telling her that she was his real daughter. So he has lied to her all her life. In order to hide from her the truth that she had no living blood relatives, he had never shown her the contents of the family register. But now things have changed because the daughter has announced to him that she wants to marry her longtime boyfriend. When she goes to the registry office to file her marriage, she will discover who her real father is, revealing the lie that her adopted father had maintained all these years. After agonizing over it and weighed down by his guilt, the adoptive father finally decided to tell his daughter the truth before the wedding. It was time to tell her that she had had a biological father and it is not he. He fears that by telling the truth, he will lose this daughter, whom he has raised single-handedly and whom he loves so much. But it has to be done. And so he comes to the cafe to travel back into the past to meet his dead best friend, the girl's biological father, armed with the latest digital camera. When he meets his friend, however, the friend offers him a solution. Let us take a video together of our daughter's two fathers. So the adoptive father returns. So the adoptive father returns tearful, emotional, yet relieved, in order to give his daughter the best present a bride can get, a video message from not one, but both her fathers, the real one and the adoptive one, blessing her as she embarks on this new journey in her life. At the end of the day, whether one returns to the past or travels to the future, the present does not change. So it raises the question, just what is the point of that chair? But Kazu still goes on believing that no matter what difficulties people face, they will always have the strength to overcome them. And if the chair can change someone's heart, it clearly has its purpose. While the rules are very clear that one cannot change the present, the people who come back are rewarded by getting closure, making amends, getting answers, a better understanding, more clarity. They get the chance to meet their dead loved one last time. They get to say sorry. They get to know the person's last wish. They are able to decide on their future course of action, like the nurse or the adoptive father. The people who return cannot change the present, but they change their outlook to life for the better. I hope that some of you have read the books or book, and if not, you will want to read them now. When I was reading, I was grappling with the Japanese names. So in order to make it easy for myself, I wrote each character name down as I came across it. I have also reproduced the list here like a ready reckoner for your reference. If you want to watch the video later on, you can pause it. So you have the recurring characters. The Café Funiculi Funicula, the main character, and then Nagare Tokita, Kazu Tokita, and the ghost. And then these are the rest of the characters. Book 1 and book 2. And now let's meet the man behind the two books, the author. Toshikazu Kawaguchi was born in 1971 in Osaka, Japan. Kawaguchi started his career as a playwright before he became an author. Before the Coffee Gets Cold was a critically acclaimed play that had to be adapted to a different writing style to become the best-selling novel that it did. One of the editors at his publishing house, Sunmark Publishing, became interested in the play and convinced Kawaguchi to convert it into a novel. It took many rewrites as he had to revise the description of character movement, extend scenes, and pace the story differently. He also had to flesh out the story, given that, as Satish would affirm, plays generally tend to be shorter than novels. Still, it was not that easy getting published, as the managing editor at Sunmark rejected the finished manuscript. Fortunately, the editor who had brought Kawaguchi into the publishing house exercised her option to decide on one title for publication every year, and she chose this one. Lucky choice for all concerned. The novel was a runaway success in his native Japan, and Kawaguchi followed it up with a sequel. It has also been adapted into a Japanese movie called Café Funiculi Funicula, released in 2018. Kawaguchi has sold the rights to the novel in more than 9 foreign languages. The good news for fans like me, wanting more of the same, is that a third novel, Before Your Memory Fades, is to be out this September. Just can't wait. And a note on the cat on the covers. There is no cat character either in book 1 or book 2. So in conclusion, Farooq Bhai, please do visit the cafe when you're next in Tokyo. We are very curious. You will probably be the first tourist or foreign visitor, because so far all the characters featured were Japanese. So all the best. And that's all from me. Thank you. And as they say in Japanese, arigato.
Arigato.
I hope you all liked it.
Very good.
Can I stop this?
Thank you very much.
The screen?
I'll stop the screen.
Yeah, okay, great. Excellent.
That was very nice. Sheena, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, very enjoyable, Sheena. Just like the book, you know, you
And I
kept that
hope I
tone.
gained the timing this time. I didn't want to overshoot.
Sheena, I tell you, I don't know why, but the Japanese seem to be writing books
lot
like
of
this,
books.
just something a little away from what we usually call as a novel.
Yeah.
And I've always been, once I take up a book, I'll go on and on reading, go back and come back again, and spend a lot of time. Otherwise, I tend to read very fast. But a Japanese book goes on and on for quite some time. Mo, anything from you?
Yeah, a couple of things actually. So Sheena, you've been calling this a novel. I mean, these novels, but wouldn't you prefer to call them collections of short stories?
Because they are continuous. They are not independent short stories. So because the characters will recur. For example, he will finish with one couple, but then they might continue into the next chapter.
I see.
You know? Yeah.
So yes, so it's like that book by, who is it, Neil Mukherjee, State of Freedom or something, where the stories are interconnected. You know, the set of characters, as it were. In one is the protagonist, and in another, that guy will be a minimal character, and someone else. So they're all, okay, I get that.
No, it's very interesting to have characters which are in one
Yes.
part of the novel and then come into
Very
it's
much.
very,
In
very
fact,
much. Very
by the
difficult,
way,
but
the stories that Satish is writing, he's preparing his next book, they are interconnected stories
Nice.
of this sort. Yeah. So that's a very fascinating form.
and
These
very
days,
difficult too.
I mean, during, lately, as it were, the invisible universe has become very interesting, hasn't it?
Yeah.
In literature, in movies, whether it's the Twilight thing or whatever, so non-realistic, and this comes into that area, doesn't it?
Fantasy.
The basic premise is fantasy, yes, but handled very lightly. I like the light touch. You mentioned that also, that there's humor, there's this lightness of touch. They're not too long, so it doesn't go on and on.
And
about
even
any
when
of
he speaks about a ghost and all, it is not scary. You know, it's just,
Yes.
likable
I mean-
ghost. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, in fact, you know, how he pulls that off, because a ghost is a scary thing. But there's a dash of humor here, because the ghost has to go to the toilet,
Yeah.
you know, and that's only once a day, however.
And you know, there are times, Mohini, you'll read that in book 2, that when some people are very impatient to travel, they don't have much time, you know. So this Kazu, she keeps pouring coffee for the ghost. And one of the rules is that the ghost cannot refuse the coffee.
Oh,
And like the rules apply to the ghost as well, and to the other, to the cafe staffers. So Kazu kept pouring coffee, and I think she gave her 9 refills. And then finally this ghost had to go to the loo. So it's really funny, you know. Yeah.
that is.
And the
true.
ghost drinks it up very quickly. She pours it, she drinks it up. She pours it, she drinks it up. I will not tell you who the ghost is. That's a very big spoiler.
I see.
Mohini,
Yeah.
let's ask everyone to
Somebody
put their
wants to ask a question.
Absolutely, of course. Do not worry, Satish. I'm not going to hog the screen forever.
Dr. Baru, but we have
Dr.
enough
Baru's
time.
hand is up.
We have
Dr.
enough
Baru.
time because I kept it to 30 minutes.
Yes.
I want to see everyone's faces. That's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
So can we ask Dr. Bharucha?
Yes.
Would you like to unmute, Dr. Bharucha?
I think it was delightful, really very delightful. There are some very interesting things. It would be certainly a great play. And certainly that would be so very fascinating. Another interesting thing about it was the visuals are gorgeous,
Thank you.
absolutely gorgeous. And I think there is something very interesting about follow the rules, because they're really about anybody's life and anybody's life story. Because following the rules are incredibly beautifully woven into that story. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so very much.
I hope you read them, Doctor.
I'd like to read.
Yes, we will. We will.
So I think Farooq's hand is also up. Let me just say that the only reason I didn't compliment you on the visuals, Sheena, is because you always have such fabulous visuals. You got used to them.
Thank you.
I know, Sheena, you spoilt us for really creative presentations. How
I
beautifully
did.
you show
I
your,
did.
your recount of your novels is as much the content of what you say as the manner in which you present it. It's really lovely.
Thank you. Actually, I make the slides and then, then I say, I will talk like this. I will talk about these things. So the slides are very important.
I think Farooq wants to ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
Normally in Japan is noted for drinking tea. Their tea festivals are very, yes, the
Ceremonious.
ceremonious, and they wear the special cloth, the special dress, and
Kimono.
the way the ladies will pour the tea and all. So it's quite a different thing from talking about a coffee place. In Japan, especially, you don't get many coffee places. The coffee places like the Starbucks and all are there, but a traditional just apna Irani cafe waisa coffee shop you don't find in Japan. At least I never found any. So this looks like something out of the way that I can see that.
You must visit Farooq Bhai.
Yeah,
You must visit.
It
Yeah.
sounds more like Harry Potter to me now. some wall I have to walk in, and then there will be a staircase going down.
And then this clang dong is very important.
Yeah.
More, there's a new person called Sunita Shetty. She's looking different.
Where is she? I can't see her.
I'm here.
Ah, there you are,
Are you in
Sunita.
India or USA?
In the US, Farooq. But I just want to tell you, Farooq bhai, when you go to the cafe, you'll not meet any one of us there for sure when you go to the past, okay? Because none of us have been to the cafe. You'll meet more interesting people.
Actually, I'd like to say something here. According to me, the world is currently divided into 3 categories. People who've not been to Japan like me, people who've been to Japan once, maybe all of you, and people who've been to Japan manifold number of times like Farooq bhai. So yeah.
Okay. So Dipti had her hand up.
And then
Yes,
Kaveri also.
No. I just said I've never been to Japan in that category.
Yeah.
Deepti,
Yeah, okay.
you wanted to
Thank
say
you,
something?
Sheena. That was really delightful.
Thank you.
I have read the first chapter of your first book. I mean, of the first book, which was called The Lovers, and I found it really enchanting. It was very nice. There were 2 things that struck me in that. One comes right in the beginning, and one comes right at the end, and it's just the girl in question. I mean, she is supposed to be very intelligent, right? The heroine, the protagonist,
Fumiko.
is very intelligent.
Fumiko, yeah.
And what struck me was, the undercurrent where it shows that though she's so intelligent, her emotional quotient is pretty much low, which one does find, in highly intelligent people, their ability to handle, human relations, etc., is not that great. And the second thing that struck me was towards the end, where it, I guess, after listening to you, it seems this must be an undercurrent in all the stories, which is that she presumes, a certain thing. Like she presumes her boyfriend has left her because he doesn't love her. And whereas when she goes back into the past, she talks with him, she comes to know that he has left because he thinks that he is not good enough for her. And then it just struck me that happens all the time, to us. We have a preconceived notion, that something has happened to us because of something. And actually the reality could be quite different from what, we think. Those are so I suppose all the stories must be having that as a, undercurrent. That's what I think.
So, Kaveri, I found one mistake in the first chapter. Sorry, guys, but I read very slowly and I've read it twice. And it struck me. So the mistake is, what is your name? Sorry again. Dipti. So if you, I don't know if you noticed, but it says that Fumiko, her boyfriend, that guy he's actually 3 years younger than her. And then the author says first that they have been dating for 3 years, but that is not so. Then later on, he says they've been dating for 2 years. So there was a contradiction there, and yeah. And I don't know, the first time when she was with him in the cafe, I don't know how she missed what he said, because this cafe is not a noisy cafe. There is no background music, so even that clunk and clang, and even when this ghost is reading the book and she shuts the book, the flap, everything you can hear, it reverberates. So I don't know how she missed that line that if you will wait for me for 3 years, I will be back. That's what he tells her.
Yes, he
tells her, but she missed it the first time. So she went all the way into the past to listen to it the second time. And when you read book 2, this is just a rule that I want to tell you, that this girl is greedy. Now that she's gone into the past, she can't wait. She wants to go forward 3 years into the future to see that if she really marries this guy. But the rule is that you can't use that chair more than once. It's only a once in a lifetime opportunity. You go once, you cannot go twice. You cannot go to the past or the future again. You see? So that rule is there. We don't know why. Maybe they want to give everybody a chance. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, somebody else raised their hand.
Friana has her hand up.
Friana
Yes,
and Indu after that.
Friana,
first.
would you like to unmute?
Yeah. First of all, the presentation was really, really beautiful. I enjoyed it thoroughly. The thing with this novel is that it's just that I actually happen to watch a lot of Japanese content as such. So, the like serials, some animated content. I happen to watch a lot of Japanese media. And in that, I have found that this representation of the ghost as something which is a little more on the humorous side, where the main content is usually the relations between humans and the communication which they hold between one another, and the misunderstandings and everything that just erupts out of words. This sort of has become such a general theme when I look at everything that I've looked at in the Japanese literature or media scene, that this book really makes me feel like it's a part of that.
Interesting.
And on a very personal note, I lost my dog 2 years ago. And when they were like, what would you do if you went back in time? And my first reply was, can I just go and meet my dog again?
That's very sweet.
I really miss her. And I grew up with her. I was 9 years old when we got my dog. So it was an emotional minute for me. I was like, I just want to go meet my dog right now. I don't care if it's, just for that one coffee, I would go and I would just hug my dog and I would just stay with her for some more time.
Yeah.
And
that's very sweet. That's very nice.
But this book, I am just the last point, sir. This book, I think, from what I've heard so far, and it has been on my to be read list for a long time, which is sad. I should have got to it sooner. But the one thing that this book stands out to me is probably why there is a need for communication between all of us. If we have had a problems, why we need to talk to people and, have it sorted at that time rather than need the chair to go back in the past, speak to them and then have it sort of unfold. So I think it just brings out this idea of sharing emotions, sharing what you're feeling in that moment. And I think that is a very sentimental thought to hold with this book.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Very
I
nicely
think-
said.
I think
not
Dr.
always
Kulkarni wants to
easy.
say something.
Pardon?
I said
Indu,
it's
please
not
go
all-
ahead.
It's not always easy to not to say everything. There's always regret.
Oh yes, life is full of regrets.
Yeah.
And that's why this need, to go back. Now, Sheena, you said that it's made very clear that those people who do go back into the past and meet whoever they want to cannot change their lives henceforth, right?
I
Even
said
though
that,
they,
like, for example, Friana lost her dog. She goes back. She cannot stop the dog from passing.
from dying. Yes, I get that.
But she will
But-
feel happier when she comes back.
Yes, so
It just
in
changes
a
you. Yeah.
in a way, there's some kind of maybe conclusion, in your mind of something, some kind of clarification, some kind of greater understanding does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah. If people get closure, as I said.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mo, I think Indu wants to say
Indu.
something. And after that, I've got Noeli and Gautam waiting, and Vikram waiting.
Oh, good.
Sheena, the book was amazing, and Japanese humor is very quirky and interesting because it's also pointed to what you call as a psychotherapy. It is like people emerge, as you said, only one time. You can sit there, a chance to amend your attitude, or I don't know, maybe reform. All the crude edges get ironed out, and you come to a greater understanding of yourself and the path that you have to go into. It's a choice, I suppose, and that is what is so critical and interesting about. Well, I suppose the third book will expose more secrets that he has for all of us. They are absolutely fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's Noeli, there's Gautam there, there's Vikram there, waiting. Vikram left. So Noeli and Gautam. Noeli, switch on. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Hey. Yeah. Sheena, thank you so much for that. It really brought back book number 1 for me and really encourages me to read book number 2. Again, as usual, your presentation, from what I've seen, and I've seen some of your presentations even offline, absolutely spot on and really nice. And thank you for explaining about the cats, because again, I was wondering about the cats. So thank you so much. And I have to comment on what Firiana said. Thank you so much for that, because it didn't strike me that what you said was actually right, that we need to, open communication is key, So thank you for that, Fariana. It was actually spot on thought. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next. I'm looking forward to reading book 2, Sheena. Thank you for that.
I'm looking forward to buying book 3. It's coming out in September in hardcover.
Gautam,
Exciting.
Pre-order it.
Gautam, we're waiting for you to talk.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, 2 points. One, while you sitting in the chair and coming back, you can't alter history, but apparently it does alter your future, because your approach to the future or present circumstances do change. So you react and behave differently, I suppose. Second important point is addressed to Farooq, that I stayed in Tokyo for 3 years in the 1980s. I did pass by the cafe, but then didn't get a chance to go in because it was crowded. So I think it's the responsibility of Farooq when he goes there and as a patron of Gyan Adab that he must come back with a chair so that everyone has a chance to sit on it.
And you
That's
must
it.
take lots of pictures, Farooq bhai.
Don't bring the chair here.
Gautam is saying he must bring the chair.
The chair, but take a lot of pictures of the cafe. And you are allowed to take pictures. You are allowed to go and give.
I think
yeah.
I always consider Farooq as a responsible person. I think he should do at least this much for Gyan Adab.
I will do that.
Okay, I think the last one I would like to call. Where's the gentleman? Okay, Rupali, Anil, no, all have some. I don't think there's anyone waiting, love.
I think Shabir Karu was there, right?
I thought there would be lots of more questions. You know, I have read each of the books 2 times. Yeah, so I can answer any question.
I bet. Mukul, what about you, Mukul? Mukul?
I think she's left. She's there. She's there.
Mukul, waiting for you. Switch. Please switch on. No.
No.
Please switch on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. No question as such, but I've not read too many Japanese books, some, but I'm so happy that this is so frothy kind of, you know, from what you told me, as opposed to a lot of depression or, you know, loneliness, you know, that I've read and I've also heard is an integral part of their society, you know. Maybe that's how they are structured, unless one is making a generalization, but yeah, I'd love to read this because it's really bubbly from what you tell me. Yeah. And I like the moving into the back and front also with the Harukai, you know, in one of his books, I think you go up and down the stairs and then you go into a different time zone and stuff like that. So maybe that's a way of also getting away from social reality, which is probably slightly more depressing. Maybe, I don't know, just a comment.
I think that's a reference to the other book that you had reviewed, Sheena.
1Q84.
Yeah.
I
just missed the name. I knew it was.
I just want to say a couple of lines on the style of this book. It is
please.
But it's very simple. You know, the English, and it's very charming. It's very simple. And there's a lot of repetition. So in the beginning, when I was reading the book 1, I found it irritating. Like, why is he repeating the rules in every story? But that is important because every person who sits on that chair, they have to tell them the rules. So the rules, now I know all the rules by heart because they're repeated and repeated. And repetition is a style in Japanese writing. Murakami does a lot of that. They sort of keep emphasizing and reiterating. This is their style. Yeah.
Okay. Also, I thought he means them to be standalone stories.
Yes.
Also, even if you just pop into the one, you know, it's independent of the others.
But
yes and no.
Can we read? Do we have to read them in line, or can I?
I would prefer that you read them in line because he reveals a little bit about characters like Kazu, for example. So you might miss out on Kazu, you know. You'll not know, because then when you go to book 2, Kazu is there, but you miss the beginning of, you know, the earlier part of Kazu's history. So it's better that you read it in sequence. Unless you don't want to read all the stories, you can just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it would be fun to be able to switch on your own.
Yeah.
Go from one to the other, and finally at the end come to the final part of it. I think it would be wonderful to do that. Mo, I think you take over now.
Yes, so I just wondered if Anil had anything to say. Anil
Farooq has a question.
Okay, Farooq, yes.
I had 2 questions actually. Who is the heroine? Is it the ghost or the one who pours the coffee?
I think the hero is the cafe.
Okay.
But the one who pours the coffee, yes, she's a very important.
And does the ghost play the guitar also?
You are, no, I don't know about all that. I can't tell you the spoilers because you come to know the ghost identity.
Because behind you, there's a painting with a ghost playing a guitar or a sitar.
That's Saraswati playing the veena.
Yes.
Yeah, you're looking like Saraswati, making Saraswati look like a guitar player.
Very.
Can I make a comment?
Yes. Yeah. Who's that?
Anil.
Anil. Yes, I did ask for you just now.
Quite a fascinating presentation, and Sheena's way of presenting is really something. She's so fluent. She never stutters. Her words go in one direction. That's really something.
I have notes. I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, but you read them very fast. Anyway, what I liked about it is I find this novel extremely fascinating. The whole thing between past, present, and future, and the relationship which you found, which you told about the, you can go to the past and understand the present and the future better, but you can't change it. Maybe you can change the future, as someone said, but you can't change the present. That, I think, is true. Many times, my personal experience is when you think about the past and you start reflecting on why he said that and why I didn't say what it was, it's healing. There is a bit of healing in that.
Usually it's an ego.
Though it is what you call, there is ghosts and all that, that is just allegory. Actually, it is real life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm going to buy all the books of this guy.
It's totally worth it. I will definitely return to them after a few months. They're such fun.
Anil,
Thank you very much.
Anil, one thing is there, usually when we go in retrospect, that's the allegory you're talking about, the fact that you retrospect, you'll usually find that the past is all about ego and jealousies and unnecessary hate, Usually that's what I think. So if you were to look at the book in a more metaphorical way, I think it's all about we can sit on the chair every day and we can sit and muse ourselves and find out what we did wrong. And we'll find that most of the time, when you point a finger there, 3 fingers point at you.
That's a very good point.
Very right.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Very true. Very true.
And that's what we try to do, especially in old age, Because
Mukul.
reflect on the past.
I just had a comment on what Anil said, and sort of it struck me that, you need to connect, and he talked about her style. And after that, from what he said, I'd like to take off from there and say, you become your own psychiatrist, I think, your own therapist by sitting there. Yeah.
You introspect.
Yeah. So So
you
it probably, so I think.
There was this book that I presented some time ago called The Midnight Library. I don't know if anyone remembers it.
Yes.
Where when you die, you go into the library, and the library is full of volumes all about you. So every decision that you take would take you in a certain direction and not in some other. But if you had taken another one, what would have happened, etc. And our protagonist gets a chance to enter into so many of those alternative lives. That's also a form of introspection, looking back and realizing what a certain choice led to, what another choice might have led to, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the book, she sort of finds her ideal life, the ideal decisions. And she's able to go there. So she's able to make that change. There,
but it's that's so very unusual that you find at the end of your life to be able to say that I should have done this and I will do it. It's
I know. That doesn't happen.
It's easier for everyone to look at it there. But introspection is always necessary. And as you age, you tend to introspect
more and more of it. Yes, more and
What do you say, doctor? Dr. Bharat, what do you say? Do you introspect more and more?
No, I missed that, I guess.
So what Moini was saying, that the introspection goes on, and finally you introspect something which will be really calming to one's mind.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. You look back and you think of what you could have done differently.
Right. Now, Shabir Karu is here and he hasn't said anything. Shabir, would you like to final chance? Otherwise, we'll wrap up now.
No, I think he'll have to bring his daughter next time. She talks beautifully. Shabir, bring your daughter around, Umma.
Shabir is not
beautifully.
there. Shabir is not there.
Shabir is not there more.
Okay, his screen is there. All right. So I think we'll wrap up now. So I think the general conclusion is that these books are highly worth reading. They're delightful, they're charming, they're light reading material. They combine humor with a serious subject, the serious subject of life, and the mistakes we make, the regrets we have, the introspection that we ultimately subject ourselves to, all of that. And I think we all agree that Sheena did a very good job of the presentation. And her slides, oh my gosh. I mean, I practically salivate over your slides, Sheena. Honestly, I wish I knew how to make such slides. I do not know.
You should see Moini's computer, what happens then.
Oh, let's not get there. Let's not go there. So, all right. So everybody would like to thank Sheena for this session. Excellent, Sheena. Absolutely way to go, girl. And let's see more of you. And I'm glad to know that Sheena is already thinking of her next presentation. So that's great. Let me just mention what we're going to have next Sunday. In fact, 3rd of July, we have Sai Paranspe. Now, everybody has heard of Sai Paranspe, the maker of the film Chashme Badur, Katha, Sparsh, and so on. When I was in school, she was at the National School of Drama, and then she began to direct plays. She was acting in plays at the National School of Drama, where I used to go, as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. And I've watched her and Om Shivpuri and Sudha Sharma she was, then she became Sudha Shivpuri as students at FDI, learning their craft. So Sai Paranspe has written a book of memoirs called A Patchwork Quilt. She's written it in Marathi and her own translation into English, but I'm told by Latika and Anita, who are going to be in conversation with her, that really it's not a translation, it's a whole different book. Well, I haven't read the Marathi one, but I am reading the English one. So we very much look forward to having Sai Paranspe with us in conversation with Latika Patgaonkar and Anita Beninja. Okay, so that's next Sunday. Then on the 24th of July, we have Munira Kheraluwala, who is a new entrant to the book club, talking on Tagore. Now, Tagore, that's a huge subject. So what she plans to do is talk a little about his life, which, is quite amazing by itself. His travels, his exposure, his friendship with people like W.B. Yeats, and Ezra Pound and so on. And then she's going to talk about 1 or 2 short stories, probably the Kabuliwala and the Gitanjali, which won the Nobel Prize, and how that happened. So that's on the 24th of July. Then we have Sunita Shetty on the 7th of August, another book by Elif Shafak. I think Elif Shafak may be the author who has had the most number of books featured on our book club, and so on and so forth. I have put the calendar on the WhatsApp group, so I'm sure you've all seen it. So we sign off here at this point today. Sheena, many, many thanks. We have enjoyed today very much. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who joined us, who commented, who joined the discussion, who listened, who came. Everyone, thank you. And the last word is with Farooq.
I have one question. Mohini. I looked at the new schedule that you posted, and I'm very disappointed that you've removed Open by Andre Agassi, because it was very timely. It was during Wimbledon, I think, right? And I was just going to buy the audiobook, and then today I saw that it's not there anymore.
It's just been moved forward. You see, when I have to make, it's easiest to move myself. I don't have to ask anyone.
But it was very timely, because it was in Wimbledon month.
I know. It'll come soon. That's all I can say. Because now we're meeting twice a month, not every Sunday.
But you can make
I also felt a little bad about having
to make an exception and add one Sunday, I think. No?
You don't give up.
That's it.
You don't give up.
It's a lovely book, folks. I so enjoyed it.
Okay, I am going to get the audiobook to start.
Okay. Well, I couldn't tear my eyes from it, honestly. I enjoyed it that much.
Okay.
And I'm not a sports fan or sports buff or anything.
Exactly. Mohini was still reading the book when our daughter was running her 400 meters. The 14-year-old was running a 400 meters, and Mohini was busy reading her book. And I was shouting myself hoarse.
Okay.
Oh, well. Okay. So, Farooq, last word from you.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Sheena, for this. We are working on two programs, Mohini. This gentleman who died recently, Gopichand Narang, he was a very senior person who got 2 awards, national awards from the Pakistan and India for Urdu literature. And we are working on that program. And we are working on Mughal-e-Azam. These 2 programs we are working on. Both are big, complicated programs. So once we get that, I'll be putting the schedule on. This is what.
Thank you. Good fun. That'll be good fun.
So we have
enjoy every now and then. I like to listen to the music from Mughal-e-Azam.
Mughal-e-Azam has got 12 songs. Getting 12 songs sung and making the script is a massive project.
But the best scene is that feather tickling scene. No? Huh? Very nice.
I need some actors to do that.
What a sensual scene that is. I mean, I think it is one of the most erotic scenes in Indian cinema.
Which one do you say?
There's a feather tickling scene where Dilip Kumar is tickling Madhubala's cheeks or hair with the feather, one big feather. Today they will do anything. They get so physical. But that one scene in 1960 was amazing. It just spoke volumes. Yeah.
1 minute. I'll tell you the most sexiest song and scene is from a movie called Jal. And that is in the 40s. And everyone saying it's Hemant Kumar ka song. Hai. But see, Geeta Bali is acting in that. And then you realize what sensuality is all about.
Yeah.
This is in the 40s. Can you think of it? That they did it in that days.
So, with your permission,
all for you.
End the program?
Yes. So, goodbye, good night.
Bye.
See you next Sunday, 3rd of July, Sai Paranspe.
Okay.
Good night.
Looking forward. Bye.
Bye.